All right, let's move it to Real Madrid, back to Real Madrid, because it's easier to speak negatively about people, but I think we need to, we mentioned the midfield before. I thought Vinicius was great. I thought Rodrigo also was very effective when he came on. Valverde ran himself
top
into
three
the
in
ground.
the world, like
right?
Toni Kroos says about Valverde.
Top three what?
Top
Uruguayan midfielders?
Midfielders. Yeah.
What?
Well, midfielders. I think you probably meant more midfielders than three players.
Yeah, I think it easy.
He's playing unbelievable, that's for sure.
Definitely top three Uruguayan midfielders who play for Madrid. No, sorry. But I want to praise Tchouameni because...
Oh, yes.
You're playing in this midfield. You're playing against people who, in theory, can zip the ball around left, right, and center. You have to do that thing that we use that Spanish term bascular before, which doesn't seem to exist in English, but you said shuffle. But
maybe, yeah.
Because they always play through the wings, you've got a midfield trio which always has to slide across and help, right? Two of those three guys, one of them is 37, the other one is Kroos, who's never the most athletic guy, and is also in his 30s. So the way those three worked, and the way Tchouameni especially, who is going to be the energy guy out of those three, I thought was exceptional, Jules.
Fantastic for a first Clasico. Again, let's remind everyone that he's just been there a few months, really. A game of this caliber, even if that was at the Bernabeu, which I think helps, to not be too nervous, and in a team that is so high on confidence. It's incredible for someone who's only 22 years old. And again, if you remember his first game against Almeria away, when it was very shaky for him and Camavinga, and he kind of came off early. For him to then have almost switched his mind to become this incredible player in such a key part of that team, I think is a big credit for him. He will start the World Cup now for France because N'Golo Kanté is out. So he's going to have an even bigger end of the year than the last few months. But so much maturity, so much intelligence, on top of the very good qualities as a footballer that he has. But for me, it's the maturity that he showed in a game like that made the difference for Real Madrid.
All right, Alex, final question to you. In fact, you can both answer this. Let's play hypothetical role-play game. If Mbappé had made a different decision back in the summer, would Real Madrid be, obviously in the long term, we assume they'd be better?
It's such a bad question.
Why?
Well, so what? And then
it's
what
unpleasant
happened?
for you, isn't it?
So what? Is Casemiro still there? Is he left as well? Or is Tchouameni has come as well?
Well, Tchouameni would have come anyway, right?
I don't know. How do you know? How do we know? Okay.
Right, well, let's ask Alex. He's in Madrid. Alex, had they signed Mbappe, would they have been like, oh, there's no more money? Oh, let's not bring in Tchouameni.
Well, what was your question? Would things be better now than
I think in the long term they'd be better. In the short term, do we think that the impact, moving Vinicius or whatever, the reason I say this is because I'm still convinced that one day Mbappe will rock up there.
Yeah, so I agree with you.
What do you think? Nobody will hold you to it if you get it wrong.
Yeah, and it's a bad question, so don't worry about it.
But this was the weird thing about the whole Mbappe saga, wasn't it? It was that it went on for so long, and he was the number one, the only player that Florentino Perez wanted to bring in. And yet you looked at that Real Madrid team at that point, and the one position they did not need to reinforce was the left-hand side of the attack, because Vinicius was the most exciting young player in that position anywhere. That was always just a strange thing about the whole thing, was that it was going to cause on the pitch problems in terms of what you do. Now, of course, they would have found a way around it. I'm sure they could have switched it around and found a way to make it work, but it wasn't a problem that needed to be solved. And I think that it's worked out. It's worked out pretty well so far. It looks so good. Vinicius keeps getting better. He's carried on this year at least as good, maybe even better than he was last year. And that development and that progression would have been disrupted to some extent if he was switched over to the right-hand side or whatever. On the Tchouameni point, I think the fact they were, of course, in talks for that deal before the Mbappé decision, but the fact that they came out and did it the following week, pretty much, I think it was very much a let's make a big, noisy signing to make people forget a bit about Mbappé. For sure, there was that too.
Benzema Mbappé partnership is always the best anyway.
Well, that's what I think. I think when Florentino goes home, and he's like drawing in the back of envelope. He's drawing a lineup. Had Mbappe signed, it would have been Mbappe with Benzema up front, Vinicius wide on one side, Valverde wide on the other. Maybe Casemiro stays with Tchouameni. maybe it's some combination of those two.
Yeah.
And then you tell Furlan.
And that would have been great.
That would have been something. Alex, it's been an honor and a privilege. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.